Podsters, today is a treat. Let me tell you why. I've been thinking about this a while, and I've waited until I did a bunch of research and I waited until I was ready to really be able to talk about this with facts and knowledge and information rather than opinion, because this is really important. So, the number one question I'm always asked every time I give a keynote, every time I speak to groups, the number one question I'm always asked, always, is what advice would you give to yourself, to your younger self? Or what would you tell someone? What advice would you give to someone? Number one, every single time without fail. What I would say, what I will say, what I will always say is trust your instincts. Your instincts, your gut, the feeling you have, almost always will lead you in the right direction. Here's what's so cool. There's science to back this up. So today we're going to talk about the science of intuition. And I'm not a science person. Sorry, all my pharma listeners and medical listeners and medical device listeners and dental device listeners, everyone. I'm just not a science person. I don't love science. I love when science proves things to be true. And that's what we're going to do today. So today we're going to talk about intuition and the science behind intuition. You can call it intuition. You can call it trusting your instincts. You can call it your gut. You can call it whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing. So here's what really just blew me away. I knew I wanted to talk about intuition, and this just totally blew me away. Here's what it was. And it makes so much sense if you think about it. Okay. So when you have an instinct about something, or when your intuition is telling you something about a situation, your mind is subconsciously processing a whole, or consciously processing everything that you have processed subconsciously. So you're processing information, so much information in a given day. Some of it you recall, some of it you don't, but it's in your mind. It is in there. So when you have this instinct or this intuition, it is calling on what you don't even know is in your brain to help you make the decision. I'm going to give you a few examples in a minute. Even when you're asleep, even when you're dreaming, your brain is still processing all this information. So the intuition comes in when you're faced with a problem. You don't know that you have the information available to you because you didn't know when it came into your brain in the first place. So you can't really think yourself through the solution, or you can, but you don't know that you know what your intuition is telling you. So it sounds a little circular. And at the end of the day, it feels right to you because your brain is rapidly processing all of these data points without you even knowing it. Okay. And here is what's really cool. It's also, by the way, processing patterns that, you don't necessarily wake up in the morning and say, I think I'm sensing a pattern today, but your brain does, and your subconscious mind does that. So when you make a decision, or when your instinct tells you something and you don't really know why, perhaps it's your subconscious processing that pattern. One more thing before we get into it. Okay. You know the expression, trust your gut instincts. I know you've heard this. There is a neurological basis for trusting your gut. I'm going to read it to you because I don't want to mess it up. Okay. So the stomach is oftentimes also oftentimes called your second brain. You know, when you get a pit in your stomach, or you just have that feeling in your stomach that something's not right, or you have a feeling in your stomach that something's exactly right, your stomach has a huge neural network, okay? Over 100 million neurons lining your stomach. I did not know this. Did you know this, Podsters? I did not know this. So this is more than your spinal cord. And think about how sensitive your spinal cord is. So this is your gut's processing abilities. So when you approach a situation and you approach it instinctually, your brain and your gut are working together to quickly work through all of these data points, all of these neurons, past experiences, past patterns, what you need, what you know you need, what you know you don't need, all of these things to help you make the decision. I mean, if that's not wild, I don't know what is. Scientific reason why your gut has this reaction. It's not just anxiety and it's not fear. It's these neurons working in tandem with your brain. How wild is that? Totally wild, for me anyway. Another reason why trusting your instincts or using your intuition is so powerful, we do not have as much time as we used to. As a society, as a country, any country really, we don't have time. And many people, particularly leadership, but everyone, because leadership has to make more, as you get further and further advanced in your career, you start making more intuitive decisions. One is because you learn to trust your instinct, and two is because you don't have the time to gather all that data. So the data is already in your head. You only have a split second sometimes to make these decisions, or much less time to make these decisions. You know the value of not overanalyzing. So you've learned to trust your instincts. And a lot of that is, again, because we just have less time. All right. So let's talk about, if I wish I had a guest today, because we would talk about when to trust and when to toss. Trust or tossed? Podsters. Here's a question. Trust or toss? All right. Your safety. You're walking home from an event and it's not, a dark alley, but you're walking and something feels off. Perhaps there's somebody walking on the other side of the street or someone approaching you, and your instinct is telling you, or your intuition is saying, avoid this person. Okay. That is a time to trust your instincts. We've all heard the stories of women, maybe men. Most of the stories I've heard have been women who, somebody was eyeing them, or they didn't like the way someone was looking at them or interacting with them, and they removed themselves from the situation. Ted Bundy's a great example, a pretty grim example, but a good one. There are many, many women who have shared that when they were approached by Ted Bundy, even though he was charming, even though he was handsome, even though he was very endearing, something felt off and they didn't help him. So for those of you who might not know, I'm not going to get into it. So for those of you who might not know, he was a very bad person. He was a serial killer in the US, really just a sick individual. And almost all of his victims voluntarily went with him. He was that charming. And it's not their fault. So the ones who had the feeling and got out of Dodge, they survived and they didn't end up with him. Okay. So that was a little extreme. I want to make sure that you really get this, and that or I know you get it. I want to make sure that you feel good about your decision next time to remove yourself from a situation like that. It could be going somewhere with a group of friends that you think something's not right about that. It could be anything. If it's your safety, definitely trust your instincts. Okay. Instincts. Trust or toss. Your health. Okay, so we've all heard the stories of the women who, and I'm sure men, the stories I've heard are women who go to their doctor says it's nothing, don't worry about it, and something tells them to get another opinion. They may get 5, 6, 7, 8 opinions. I have seen stories of women who have been to 10 doctors, and it's the 10th doctor that says, no, this is a problem, this is cancer, or this is a tumor, or this is whatever the case may be. If you feel, and any doctor, any good doctor in the world will tell you to trust your instincts every time. So when it comes to your health, trust your instincts. Always, always, Podsters. I'm going to get into instincts in a relationship in a little bit. I want you to stay tuned for that. And I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about trusting your instincts at work. Okay. So if you are interviewing someone for a job on your team and that candidate feels a little off and you're like, yeah, I can't put my finger on it. I will tell you, Podsters, every single time I had a hesitation about hiring someone, every time, and I hired them anyway, it turned out to be not a good fit. Doesn't mean it was a bad person. Doesn't mean they didn't contribute. Every single time they ended up leaving, usually within a year or two, leaving or being asked to leave, or whatever. And it was something in my instincts or something in my subconscious said, yeah, this person they look great on paper, but I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. Every time, Podsters, trust it. That is a trust. And that's not to say it's going to be accurate every time. I truly can't think of a time when my instinct said not to go with a candidate and I went with the candidate and I ended up being wrong. That's not to say I'm never wrong. Yeah, I don't. And even when other people weren't supportive of a candidate, but I knew that but I knew in my heart and my gut, I knew, no, this person's got what it takes. This person's got what it takes every time. They were successful every time. So when you're hiring candidates, trust your instincts. Okay. What about when you're interviewing for a job? Trust or toss. So you're interviewing for a job and it's a great job on paper, great job. And you're interviewing and you learn more and more and yeah, they're checking all the boxes and it really is a great opportunity. Something just doesn't feel right and you can't put your finger on it. I would say this is a really strong example of when you might think you're happy doing what you're doing and you might think or you've been programmed to think about what's next and it's a great job on paper. If you are not 100% sure that you want to do the job, not that you can do the job, because many of us oftentimes feel we can't do the job, and it's very many other episodes. If something's not right and something makes you feel like it's not a fit, this really could be you don't really want the job. And your conscious mind isn't ready to say that. Your subconscious mind, which is where all your subconscious thoughts, desires, wishes, wants, it is now coming forward and saying this job does not align with what she really wants. So yeah, it looks great, but this is your subconscious speaking. I'm going to tell you not that there's something off. So that's a time when I would suggest you trust your instincts. You got to make sure here that it's instincts and it's not fear or it's not imposter feeling or it's not something else. But if everything else is aligned and it's just not right, trust your gut. Trust your gut. Okay, this one is a doozy. Okay. If there's someone and you feel uneasy around them, this is a person. Let's say it's a bad person. And it's funny, Podsters. My notes here say yes, yes, yes. There is a reason why you are uneasy around this person. And I'm not talking about, being shy or being an introvert. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something's not right with this person or something's not right with this person in this situation. This very well could be your subconscious picking up on cues and clues that your mind isn't seeing, your conscious mind isn't seeing. How many times have you said, I knew it. Like I knew it. I knew something was off with that person. I've said it many times. I'm sure you have too. Here's what it could be. They could be exhibiting a behavior that someone from way, way, way back in your past exhibited. You either buried it or you forgot about it. And they could be exhibiting that same behavior every single time. If it is about a person and they make you uneasy, trust your instincts. This is not paranoia. This is not projection. This is there's something, there's a yellow flag there. And even if you can't put your finger on it, trust it. Trust it. Okay, so the last thing I'll say is, as a rule, if your intuition is telling you something and it's a very strong or intense feeling, don't blow it off. I'm not saying act on it, because sometimes our intuition is wrong, or sometimes it wasn't our intuition. Sometimes it was something else. We're going to talk about that in a second. If it's a strong or visceral reaction, consider it. You give it the merit and the weight that it deserves, because I'm telling you, scientifically proven. All right. Let's talk about when to toss. We talked about when to trust your intuition. Let's talk about when to toss. All right. What I'll say here is try not to use your intuition as a scapegoat. There's a difference between being scared or uncomfortable, particularly at work, and having an instinct about a situation. You should be nervous about your next job. You should. If you are in a role, if you are going for a job where you feel 100% confident, you're not stretching yourself enough. You're not. Or 100% confident in your ability to do what's required in the job. So if you're going for a job and it's a promotion or a new job and you already know how to do everything, why are you going for it? Sure, if you're a leader, you'll be leading people. Don't you want to learn? Don't you want to grow? There should be some kind of stretch. There should be something out of your comfort zone. That is not the same as intuition. Okay, so if your relationship feels off and you can't put your finger on it, I'm not saying that that's always the best time to trust your intuition. Here's why. We will self-sabotage ourselves a million different ways, and you can talk yourself into anything. And it is very easy to say, yeah, we've been together a while, but my intuition is saying he's not the one for me. Okay, maybe it's right. I feel like we will try very hard to come up with excuses to self-sabotage successful personal relationships. And it's very easy to just say, oh, something just didn't feel right. It with a relationship. By the way, that's not a one-time situation. That's a relationship, which is all the more reason why maybe you toss that and just file it away and just keep thinking about it. Okay. I'm going to go back actually to when to trust your intuition. I've been talking, this is so interesting because I've been talking about this a lot the past week or so. If you meet someone and you're instantly attracted to them, and I don't mean physically attracted, I mean if you're attracted to their energy, if you see someone and you say, I want to spend more time with this person, or if you meet someone and you're like, wow, I really like this person. I think this person is really smart, and this person is someone that I definitely want to spend time with. Trust it. Trust it, trust it, trust it. You're so, even if you have nothing in common, and this is when you're networking too. So even if you meet someone who is in a vastly, wildly different space than you are, nurture that relationship. There's a reason why you are connecting to that person, and there's a reason why you're drawn to that person, and your subconscious mind knows why. Your subconscious mind is trying to tell you that this person will get you closer to some kind of desired outcome that you might not even know you have anymore. Do not blow this off. Nurture the relationship, even if you don't know why. Even if you don't know why. I have a million examples. Here's a great example. Many of you have heard the podcast with Brenda Johnston. I'm actually going to link to those in the show notes. Brenda and I met. I was instantly attracted to her in terms of who she is. I saw her. I'm like, I want to get to know her better. We could not be more different in terms of how we live our lives. She lives in another country. We do similar things in our coaching, but she does it very, very differently than I do. As she's been on here 2, maybe 3 times. And I knew that I wanted to get to know her better. And it turns out that she showed up for me at a time in my life because I knew her when I needed her. And I didn't even really know I needed her. So trust your instincts when it comes to people and networking. So in summary, Podsters, your instincts and your intuition are scientifically backed. More often than not, there's something there. And acting on it, or making sure that you're really giving it some consideration before you make decisions, is really, really going to pay off for you in the end. I promise you, Podsters, particularly at work. So with that, my Podsters, here's what I'd like you to do for the next week or so. Just pay attention to when your instincts kick in. You don't need to keep a diary. If you want to, that's great. And you don't need to act on every instinct you have. That could be a little impulsive. And at the same time, pay attention to when it's kicking in and why, and the situation, and see if you can see here that this could mean something, and this could be your subconscious mind trying to get you on the path that is meant for you, and the life that is meant for you, and the success that is meant for you. So with that, Podsters, I'm going to peace out, and I will see you next week.